Let's go over the Anthony Davis trade situation. There are multiple factors that are preventing a trade from happening, but the most unique and the most interesting aspect of this is that less than a year ago, Anthony Davis was traded for a franchise superstar who is just now entering his prime. Of course, Anthony Davis is a former superstar who is now post prime, but at the time of the trade, his name value, his name recognition was essential for plausibility because seemingly we have a superstar for a superstar exchange. And as everyone knows, the trade was unequal and the Mavericks were immediately underwater. And since the trade transpired, the return has only looked worse. And so now, with the possibility of moving Anthony Davis, as everyone can see, it's just very difficult to trade him. And so we're going to go over some of the reasons why it's so difficult to trade him, starting out with his injury history. You can't discuss the value of Anthony Davis without discussing how often he's injured. Over the course of his career, he's averaged 60.5 games per season. So he's got limited availability. He's missing approximately 25% of the games on average. And here we see a graph of his games played throughout his career. And we see that it's obviously sloping down. We had a recent uptick in 2023, 2024, where he played a career high 76 games. But then last season, he was at 51. And this season, he's already been injured. And we can see that he missed almost the entire month of November, save for the Lakers game. Otherwise, he was out. He's also missed a game recently in December. But he's already at double digits games missed. And so this season is already going as expected because Anthony Davis is just, he's injured a lot. When he's not injured, he's a very good player, still a very good player. And looking at his career stats, we can see that he is at 20 points per game. Where is the points per game here? He's a 2010 player. I'm looking for his points per game average. I'm not coming across it, but Anthony Davis is going to give the Mavericks 20 and 10 when he's available. And I think for the Mavericks, the best outcome here is just to keep Anthony Davis, because if you attempt to trade him, you're just not going to get that return. And what you don't want to do is get an even worse return on the value that Anthony Davis presented at the time of the Luka Doncic trade. So let's go ahead and say it was 30 cents on the dollar, and that now Anthony Davis's value is about half that because of his contract situation, the push for an extension, the limited number of teams available. So you don't want to go ahead and turn that trade, have Luka Doncic traded and then trade the asset that we traded for Luka Doncic and get even less a year later. And so because of that, I think the best outcome for the Mavericks is just to wait for Kyrie Irving to come back, have Anthony Davis, and then continue on and build it around Cooper Flag. And obviously the timeline isn't synced, but rare is the situation where you have the perfect team and everything is syncing together all at the right time. So there's a good article by James Herbert on CBS Sports. The title here is Anthony Davis situation is a bummer, and so is the NBA trade landscape. Well, on the Anthony Davis situation, you really can't be disappointed because this was known. This was expected. Anthony Davis was always going to be difficult to trade. He's making a lot of money. He's constantly injured. And when you look for the perfect situation, especially given the salary cap, there's just not that many places to go. So his value is going to be limited. And there's no consistency here. You can't rely upon what you're getting. And so that's what makes it really difficult to trade Anthony Davis, and why it was, I won't even call it surprising, but just nobody believed the trade at the time it happened, because why would you trade Luka Doncic for basically Anthony Davis? But this article does a decent job of breaking down the bullet points on why it's difficult to trade Anthony Davis. And so I've distilled them down here on the big board. So let's just go through them quickly. We've got a massive contract. Anthony Davis is due $54 million this year, $58.5 million next year. And he's got a player option for $62.8 million in 2027, 2028. And then there's the push for the extension. We'll get to more on that in a moment. It's also difficult because you have to salary match for contenders who are considering trading for him, and really even pretenders on the outside trying to advance. You've got to trade back $43 million plus worth of salary to get Anthony Davis. So that's obviously a major disruption to your roster. And if you've already got a good thing going, you really need to be taking an extreme risk in trading for him. So just not a lot of teams are going to do that. And if you're a contender, you're probably just going to continue on with what you have. Even if it's a very low chance of winning the championship, you're going to keep playing that rather than disrupting everything and then hoping that Anthony Davis is actually going to play. Also, from the Mavericks side, going back to the return, it's just they're not going to get a lot back. They're not going to get any serious prospects back. No team that is and going to be a lower tier no team that is going to be in the lottery, in the lower half of the lottery, is going to be willing to trade an unprotected pick back to the Mavericks, let alone multiple picks, and that's what the Mavericks would want in return. So just if you have upside, if you have prospects, you're not going to give those up for a declining asset. And then there's the extension part of this. Rich Paul, who is Anthony Davis's agent, is going to be looking for an extension sooner rather than later, because the time to get an extension is now and not after Anthony Davis continues to decline and continues to miss games. And then we also have the fact that this is going on beyond just Anthony Davis. You've seen this with Kevin Durant and Jimmy Butler, Brandon Ingram. Their trade markets just weren't there. There wasn't a lot that other teams were willing to trade in exchange for these players, and that's going to continue. And that's the salary cap makes it especially difficult now for superstars to go ahead and just say, I want out and I want to go to these teams. It's just difficult. It is logistically difficult to make trades. So we're going to see more players staying with their team and less, there are going to be less, what are they called? Blockbuster trades. Then we have here the timeline mismatch, and this gets at the Mavericks. And by the way, again, these are all bullet points from the article. It's not going to be the perfect situation. That's going to be the case for a lot of teams. So even though Anthony Davis is on the back end of his career, Cooper Flag is looking ahead to the future. It's just not going to sync up, but that's how it's going to go. Zach Lowe noted the historical value drop, so the delta between what they gave up for Anthony Davis and what they could potentially get back. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why they won't make this trade, is just that it would be it's too much for the Mavericks to accept the fact that, we gave up this franchise superstar who is now averaging, historic numbers. And now we have this player who is limited, already missing games. When he plays, he's a solid player. He's still a star. I would put him in the star status, but he's a star with an asterisk in that he's probably going to miss 25% of the games. And you don't know when he's going to be available. So it's not just that he misses games. It's like, when is he going to miss the games? Like, is it going to be in the playoffs? So that's another problem. So the Mavericks, if I'm the Mavericks, I'm staying with Anthony Davis. I'm not pursuing any trades unless a team comes to me, and then I'm going to demand more. But there's just not a lot of teams that are going to be interested, and there's not a lot of teams where Anthony Davis really fits. When you look at all of the puzzle pieces, they don't match up. They don't fit together. And so I think the Mavericks are going to continue with Anthony Davis, and we're going to see this more. It's not just Anthony Davis. It's going to be other superstars. But for Anthony Davis, it's especially difficult because even if you wanted to trade him for the Mavericks, because they just traded their franchise player away, they're going to need to get more in return. And that's just not going to be the case. Anthony Davis is not worth that much on the market.